Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and this week I've got a very special topic for you guys, and that is mental health. Now, I've never shared my mental health giant with you on this channel ever before, so I'm quite excited to share that with you. And I'm here with Greg and NK. We're going to do an interview, and I hope you can learn something, because I really believe that everyone somewhere in their life struggles with mental health, especially in these times. So enjoy the day and come along with us.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I think there's so many people out there who might be going through what you went through, who might be finding themselves in a pretty dark hole, and you know the natural reaction when you're in there is because you become so overwhelmed. You don't always know what to do, how to do it, and we're hoping that by you sharing your story and many other people sharing their stories, and that we can inspire people, that we can share a bit of hope. The first question I have for you is, did you know immediately what it was, or did you have to go and speak to somebody on this is what I'm feeling, I don't know what it is, I don't want to feel like this. How did you discover that that which you were experiencing was depression?
It's quite interesting. I think it's like a slippery slope. Before you know it, you're in the ditch, and you don't really notice it, and then it just starts like increasing the amount of negative thoughts and where you find yourself. And before you know it, like in the beginning, you might find yourself in a bad spot for like an hour a day, and it just starts increasing, and then it's like a few hours a day, and then before you know it, like the whole day is a bad day, and before you know it, you've had a bad week. The whole week was just horrible, and it's a slippery slope. And then it's kind of like you can't get out. The hole just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And I didn't seek any advice. I didn't want to speak about it because I think people are ashamed of it, of not being okay in their mind. Because we can keep everything together on social media and how it looks. We can paint this picture that everything is fine, but underneath the surface it's not. And I really believe everyone is dealing with something in their life. I'm not saying everyone struggles with mental health, but everyone deals with stuff. No one's life is perfect. And that was my journey. I didn't want to speak about it, didn't want to talk about it. I was always positive. And when I'm alone, I realized, this is actually just a picture that I'm painting, which is so unrealistic.
Yeah, you mentioned something that's very interesting, that there was a bit of shame that sort of like came with what you were feeling. What's the source of this shame? Is it society? Is it our own desire to look like everybody else? Or what do you think is the source of this shame?
I think it is, if we look at social media, that's a highlight reel of everyone's life. So we look at these things, we look at these pictures that people paint, and we think you are the only one struggling with mental health or a difficult time. And in actual fact, everyone has struggled with something. So that's where the shame comes in. I think the enemy tries to isolate you and say that no, but you are the only one, and you're going to be a burden to someone if you tell them about this. I don't want to make my problem someone else's problem. That kind of mindset. And we rather just keep quiet about it. I think that's what happens.
Yeah. Stuff happen in life, and we find ourselves, most of the time we find ourselves in these dark, deep holes. And we find ourselves struggling with depression. And even if you try and ignore it, even if you try and push it aside, it is there. You're gonna have to face it. And the longer you take to actually deal with it, the more severe it becomes. How did you? Okay, now so you've discovered that okay, I've got depression. What are some of the things you did to deal with depression at that time, even the good and the bad? Because I know sometimes people just deny it. But what did you do in that season, in that moment?
So I remember I was actually afraid to be alone with my thoughts. I didn't want to be alone in my room, or go to bed early so I have time to think. So I would keep myself busy. And also I went and also community. That's the positive side of it. So the negative side is you keep yourself busy with futile things. You just want to run around and just not be alone and just be tired the whole time. And that's actually just throwing, oil on the fire. And the positive side is seeking community. Actually talking about this, telling people, look, I'm not doing that well. And that's definitely what I started to do. I started reaching out, first to my dad. And I think he was the person that understood me the most after my accident, because he was there the whole time through everything. So it was definitely my mom, my dad, and a few good friends. I started sharing, what I'm actually experiencing, and just telling them, look, this sucks. Like, this wheelchair sucks.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had to say it because you can't pretend that everything is just fine and going well. There was this whole false positive sense, around my accident, where people were positive on my behalf, but it was a false sense of positivity. And I just had to play along with it until the day that bubble actually burst. And that's when you completely break down.
And in this journey of dealing with the mental health struggles, I think there comes a point where you sort of like the breakthrough comes, and the turnaround comes. Did you have a moment like that? And maybe just give us some, what did you do? What were some of the stuff that led you to breakthrough? I know some people would say, hey, by me seeing a psychologist, that really brought a turnaround. Some people will find, breakthrough in their faith, in their relationship with God. For you, how did that turnaround look like in your own personal life?
I came to the point, I want to tell you the most extreme point. Was almost taking my life. Literally taking a gun and saying, I want to end this. So that is like rock bottom. And I think when I was struggling with depression and this whole thing, I didn't know exactly where rock bottom was. And the moment I visited rock bottom, I actually saw, okay, so this is it. This is the lowest that I can go. The next step is actually taking your life. And then taking that decision from there and saying, okay, now the unknown is not there anymore. Because depression, negative thoughts is like a dark room. You don't want to go in there. You can't see what's going on. And the moment you actually confront it and you put on the light and you see, okay, but it's not that bad being alone with my own thoughts. It's actually not that bad. So I had to come to that point first, and then I realized, okay, this happened. This wheelchair thing is not going away anytime soon. I have to make this work now. And I also realized that my biggest turnaround was when I came to that point, when the Lord spoke into my heart. He said, but I'm not finished with you. And I still have a plan with you. Now that kind of boggled my mind, because I was at rock bottom. I didn't think I have anything left. And here God says, okay, but I've still got a plan with you. And I was committed to finding that out. And that's actually what kept me going, because I just decided to believe God in that moment. Because I had no other option. I had nowhere else to go. And I was just like, okay, this is my last resort. Let's give this a go. If it doesn't work, then I'm just going to end it. But I had to give it a go first. Yeah.
Sure. No, that is incredible. And from that moment till now, do you sometimes find yourself in places where it's like because I know mental health challenges, sometimes it's a journey. Once every 3 months, sometimes you find yourself in a deep dark hole. Did you have moments like that from that time where the turnaround came till this moment? And how do you deal in those moments? How do you deal with the mental health challenge in that moment?
I think, to be honest, I did revisit that place a little bit, but not to that extreme again. So I did revisit it for the next 4 years. So my journey was about 4 years of completely making peace with what happened to me and everything I went through. And to be honest, now, no, I don't experience any of that anymore, because I have my hope back. I have my vision back.
Come on.
And that is what got stolen from me after my accident, is my hope and my vision. And I couldn't see a future. And that is what causes mental health. And that is what causes depression. Because we get stuck in the hole, and all you can see is this darkness around you. But the moment you see the light, the truth, your vision, your hope, it just goes away. It just starts disappearing. So now I don't revisit that place ever, because I know where I'm going. I know the plans that the Lord has for me, and I hang on to that. It doesn't mean everything is just okay every single day, because it's not. You do get difficult days, but I never revisit that place on a mental side again, because I know where to I'm working.
Yeah. A while ago, I read a quote that says that suicide, which is a really, serious thing, and it's happening on a daily basis. They said suicide doesn't eliminate the chances of life getting worse.
Yeah.
It actually eliminates the chances of things actually getting better.
Yeah.
So when you find yourself in that deep dark hole, like you said, there's no hope. You don't see a way out of this. You don't see a vision for the future, because you think, I can't do this anymore.
You think this is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the sum total of my life, and that's the lie.
Yeah.
That it can only actually get better from there. Yeah.
It can.
It can only get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing is we don't have to do it alone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The struggle, it becomes overwhelming when we try and do it by ourselves. And like you shared that, the journey with your parents, how surrounding yourself with community and people who cared about you was, played a really huge, a big role in that. And your faith. And like all of us are different.
Yeah.
Some people like to go jog. Some people like, food.
Yeah.
With this different stuff that we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that finding things that actually work for us. I think that is very important. Mental health is a huge issue under young people.
Yeah.
What do you think can we do to help young people who are struggling with mental health issues?
The first thing that comes to mind is comparison. If I think of young people specifically, social media, I believe, there can be a lot of good things from social media, very uplifting things as well. But we do tend to compare. And that is dangerous, because as I mentioned earlier, we compare someone's highlight reel to our lowest point, and that is quite dangerous. So I would say definitely minimizing, that's a very practical thing, is minimizing social media interaction. But the irony is, when people are off social media, they can feel sometimes isolated. So rather get into community, get into physical contact with people. I know some countries are in lockdown, and people that watch my channel are overseas and they're on hard lockdown, so it's not always possible. But I'd rather invest into myself, in those times, than spend my time looking at other people's lives and what they are doing and people looking happy.
Yeah. Comparison. That is, I think that is the source of a lot of our troubles nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to be like somebody else.
And just actually to be content with what you have. I think that's an art that I learned after my accident. I've got a lot less physically than most people, but I still have a lot. So I think we compare to what other people have constantly, but don't forget that you actually still have more than a lot of other people. And this became a reality when I was in rehab. I saw people a lot worse off than me, and that shook me. And they were actually happy. There were guys that were paralyzed from the neck down, and they were smiling every day. And I was like, why is this guy smiling? And I can't smile, and I've got a lot more to live for.
Yeah.
That quite gripped me, and that feeling will just never leave my heart. You
recently did the Ironman challenge, and I know myself. I'm always making excuses why I can't do things. I'm always, I want to start exercising. I want to start, gymming, and I always put it off on Monday. Monday comes, there's always an excuse. And some people can also, make excuses as to why they can't overcome mental health. They can make excuses why, things are not happening. What was your motivation? How do you do it? How do you get out of bed every morning and say, I'm going to prepare for the Ironman? And what can you say for us out there who are constantly making excuses as to why we can't do certain things?
Well, first off, I do want to say not everyone is into physical exercise and not everyone is into Ironman. So this is just my frame of reference. I love to do sport, I love to be active, and I think it's a massive privilege that I can do it. And that is why I wake up in the morning, and obviously I'm excited to do it because I get to do it. Because it almost got taken away from me a few times in my life.
Yeah.
And you know when you get given a second or a third chance, in my instance I've been given a few chances, I'm not going to waste it. I'm really not going to waste it. Now, Ironman is something that scared me tremendously before my accident because I just thought they were crazy. I thought it's too extreme, and it is pretty hardcore. But after my accident, something changed in my mind, and I realized that look, there is no such thing as failure. There is no such thing as being scared of not chasing your dreams, because it all can be taken away from you, and that scared me more. And that's when I started pursuing whatever I wanted to do. I'm going to do this. And Ironman was one of those things. And I just fell in love with the sport in the process. Yeah.
And was it your first Ironman? And how was the experience?
So no, this was actually my third Ironman. I did official one. I've done a few on my own during lockdown as well, but this was my third official one. And this was a rough experience. Like, I made a video about it also, talking about that whole thing, but that was rough. Honestly, yeah, I really had to persevere just to finish. But it was a good experience, honestly. Like, I think it was one of my best races to get through it, because you can be proud of how you persevered, how you did it, and your training paid off, and that's awesome to see.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I will stand on the side of the road and cheer you on. I don't think I've got the the perseverance to do an Ironman. But hey, we can support people like you.
We can always dream.
Yeah, we can always dream. Alvain, in closing this off, I know there's people out there who, have given up hope, people who find themselves in a deep, dark hole. Young people who are overwhelmed and they're struggling with mental health issues at the moment.
Yeah.
What words of encouragement can you give for somebody like that who finds themselves in a deep dark hole at the moment?
I think the only thing that I would want to say, because when I was there, is that even though you cannot see a way out or you cannot see hope or vision, I promise you there is. I promise you that the Lord has a plan with your life, no matter what your situation is, where you are, no matter how deep that hole is. If you can just hang on to hope, you can make it out. And I know it is there, because I've seen it in my own life. And in my instance, it's seeing is believing. Now, I know Scripture talks more about believing without seeing, but I've seen it happen in my own life. So you can take my word for it. You can check my testimony, that it is possible, and I know that whatever the Lord did for me, He will do for you. There are no favorites. I'm not special. I'm not special.
Come on.
So He will do it for every single person out there. And just hang on to hope.
Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights.